Wouldst thou like to live deliciously? Chaos reigns.
Please don't scream.
Now, Sid, don't you blame the movies. Movies don't create psychos. Movies make psychos more creative.
What's going on? My name is Jonjo Lyons, and today I'm here to present to you my review for Possession. Possession is a film that I've been looking forward to checking out ever since seeing a review for it from Mark Commode. His reaction of utter confusion and infatuation had me intrigued, and after doing a bit of research, I figured it'd be perfect for this channel. While I've been assured that there is some lovely violence sprinkled in here, the real horror is the madness of heartbreak. The miserable wheezing, hours of crying, screaming bloody murder, smashing your head against a brick wall heartbreak. Doesn't that sound like fun? There's so much to talk about here, and this script is already the longest one I've ever written for this channel, so let's just jump straight in. This is Possession. The movie begins with a set of shots that are weirdly reminiscent of the opening of Necromantic 2. Here we meet Mark as he exits his cab and speaks with his wife Anna. It seems there's a rift between them, with Mark offering Anna more time before he returns. She says she doesn't know, but as their son Bob has already been informed of his father coming home, she lets him in. Also, this might be completely random, but I really like the way that he handles his bag in this moment, randomly picking it up and putting it back down again, immediately giving me a feeling of unease. Cut to Bob in the bath as Mark invites Anna to admire him, and both proud parents look at their joyful son. Cut to the couple in bed as they discuss their relationship. With performances that are so beautifully theatrical, it makes me question the criteria of a good performance.
Maybe I was asking for too much.
I was the one who had the right to ask.
I know.
No, you don't.
Why is this fantastic and Montag so awful? Although I don't think it's fair comparing this film to Wizard of Gore. Anna wonders if all couples go through the same difficulties they face, with Mark confirming that the job he was on is over now. She asks if he was unfaithful, to which Mark responds,
The truth is not really.
He asks her the same question, saying that there's always someone else when things like this happen, but Anna assures him that there is not. Mark accepts this, saying that it's just natural change, but without her he would feel nothing at all. Anna asks him what he feels now.
Are you really interested?
No.
I am immediately sold on this film. There is so much going on in just that one tiny scene. From framing to costume or lack thereof, it's just fantastic. And Isabelle Adjani's performance here and throughout the film is just so heartbreaking. This is going to be something special. Cut to Mark being questioned by his employers. They question the minute details of a meeting that Mark had with his target, and the language they use here is super interesting. Was he willing? Yes, verbally. A correct appraisal of the realities. Delicious. He tells them everything they want to know, advising it would be better for his successor to just read the report, but the superiors decline as they want to rehire him. Mark refuses on account of family, and we have a nice little to and fro between them as once again interesting dialogue is used in conjunction with the rotating camera. I tell you what, I love a good rotating camera shot. The presentation of the employers here is also really quite interesting. The accents, the black suits, the f***ing eye patch, it's all very Gestapo.
Would you be unable for a long time?
I hope not.
Aren't you allowing feelings to prevent you from answering your own questions?
Exactly why I advise you to hire my successor.
The management accepts his rejection of further work, and we cut to Mark leaving, where he checks his briefcase, finding a whole load of money inside. Mark gets home finding Anna and Bob missing, then looks out the window seeing a quick shot of two men watching him. Sometime later, Anna calls telling Mark she is downtown as she needs to think. She hangs up and we watch as Mark searches the house for signs of his wife's infidelity. Inside a book he finds postcards with one reading, "I have seen half of God's face here. The other half is you, Heinrich." Not this Heinrich, I hope. Mark tries to get more information from Margie, Anna's only friend, but she only confirms something is going on without disclosing a name and then hangs up. He puts the receiver down and the phone instantly rings, this time it being Anna. She then goes on to confirm all of his suspicions.
You have someone
Yes.
for a long time?
Does it matter?
Yes.
Yes.
While every person's worst nightmare, you've really got to appreciate Anna's honesty here. He tries to ask her to meet up, but she says she's too far away, and that's when he realizes she must be there with him.
Is he listening?
No.
But he is there.
Cut to Mark and Anna meeting again, and I love the cinematic quirks of the blocking here, with them both sitting and facing away from each other. Almost like a spy film as they try to have an incognito convo. Shots like this combined with Mark's intelligence job, his employers, and the soldiers watching him give the film a spy noir type feel for seemingly no reason at all. Mark tells her he won't be seeing Bob anymore, and it turns ugly when Anna admits she was in the mystery man's bed the first night she met him, and if she'd known him before meeting Mark, they never would have even had Bob. Mark then loses it, attacking Anna only to be thwarted by the kitchen staff. Cut to Mark at a hotel maybe, in a terrible state, unable to speak on the phone and looking like he's coming off of a year doing professionally. A woman enters and he asks how long he's been there.
How long have I been here?
3 weeks, sir.
Is he asking how long he's been in pain? How long he's been doing the same over and over again in his life, making the same mistakes? And who is the woman? The fact that she's blurred out makes me think that it's Isabelle Adjani playing a third character, giving more credence to my theory that Mark sees all women with Anna's face. Look, I'm getting really savage flashbacks from this scene, so let's just move on, shall we? Cut to Mark going home to find Bob sitting alone covered in jam. He tells his dad Anna left, never came back, and then Margie called telling him to be brave as she'd broken her leg and had to put a cast on it. He then shows his dad his new boat, a present from Heinrich. We then see Mark remove the boy's shirt to get him cleaned up, noticing something. We don't see it, but it does suggest possible signs of physical abuse. Cut to Anna returning home. She hurriedly checks Bob is in his bed, then tries to reassure Mark, saying that this never usually happens, all the while Mark rocks backwards and forwards in his chair like a maniac. He tells her she can visit, but he'll be taking over parenting from now on. Mark tells her if she wants to stay, she must break up with her lover over the phone. He starts packing her things, but tells Anna it could be the way she wants. Just don't cry anymore. She then breaks down in tears. Cut to Mark undressing Anna and holding her for a moment in the same way he did Bob. She tells him she's sleepy, and so Mark tucks her in. Hard cut to morning as Mark is awoken by the phone ringing. He answers and the man on the other end tells him,
Anna is with me, and she'll stay with me.
Going back through the film, it's clear that the voice on the other end is not who Mark thinks it is. If we listen closer, it's clear that this is not Heinrich as I originally thought on first viewing, but actually the third entity in this mess. Why does the entity speak with Sam Neill's voice? You'll find out shortly. As he lays back down, we see the letter Anna left. It reads, "My love, I had to go to talk to Margie, so I would never hurt you again. My love." Mark calls Margie for Heinrich's house number, and when he calls that, he gets through to Heinrich's mum. She says neither of them are there and how much she misses Anna before Mark hangs up on her. He searches the yellow pages for an address attached to the number, but is interrupted by his son who needs to go to the toilet. He tells Bob about mum going to Margie's and says that he'll be staying with him. Cut to the next morning as Mark drops Bob off at school. There he meets Bob's teacher who looks identical to Anna.
What is this, a joke?
What are you talking about?
I'm in your wig.
What?
I'm so sorry, it's impossible.
He freaks out at first, thinking she's wearing a wig, but quickly understands that this is a different person. Cut to Mark at Heinrich's house. Heinrich allows him to enter his home, confirming Anna is not there. Mark says they spoke on the phone, but Heinrich claims ignorance.
We spoke on the phone last night, you and I, didn't we?
Stop it, I just arrived from Hamburg. You weren't listening to me.
So if that wasn't Heinrich on the phone, who was it? I have my suspicions. Your mum being one of them. Heinrich tries to eloquently explain his love for Anna and his wishes for Mark to come to terms with that, dropping this f***ing savage bar.
The key being the infinitive. To accept.
Heinrich asks if Mark and Anna banged the last time that they saw each other, but before he can answer, Heinrich's mum enters the house.
My mother.
I love the way that they both pause their conversation as soon as the mum comes in, like it's a sitcom. As soon as she leaves, however, Mark just jumps straight back in. He asks if the mum was here when Heinrich and Anna were banging, to which the man proudly answers,
Of course.
Mark then tries to start a fight, but gets absolutely f***ed up. Welcome to the worst case scenario. Not only is the person that you love f***ing someone else, that someone is well off, eloquent, takes care of his mum, and just beat the out of you. Heinrich picks Mark up for a cuddle and Mark tries to strangle him, but that works just as well as you might think. Heinrich then fireman carries Mark out as we cut to Anna and Bob in the kitchen. Bob notices another person in the apartment and then we pull out to see Mark getting a little soap opera.
Would you take your sandwich with you?
I love it. Bob then goes to the backyard and another argument ensues between the parents. And then they have an argument that might be familiar to anyone who's ever been part of a relationship that was entirely devoid of trust.
I was with friends.
Who?
No friends.
I'll check.
Yes, check, 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 check.
He screams questions, she answers, and neither one is satisfied. It becomes clear the only reason Anna has once again returned is Bob, and Mark responds,
Here's my son too.
Try to tell me that you care about him all that much. He didn't stop you from breaking us up. If you really thought about him, you'd give a thought to us, for Christ's sake.
The argument peaks as Anna eventually escapes the room. She grabs some money and the words between them get horrific.
Oh, yes. A monster. A fool. I f her on with everybody. Whenever you turn her on, I f her with everybody. On every corner.
We then cut to these lovely POV shots as the pair stare at each other in the eye of the storm.
Do it again.
Mark tries to goad Anna into doing it again, but she just smiles and tries to escape. Mark then takes his rage out on Anna, slapping her over and over again. He says this is for the lies, and she responds,
Then you have to add much more.
like a f***ing gangster. Good lord. He lets go and Anna finally escapes, with Mark chasing her into the street. They scream and we see Anna is covered in blood from her assault but still giving zero f***s.
I have to go.
I'll follow you.
Don't even try.
She steps into the path of a truck carrying wrecked cars, then whips off her sunglasses as the score kicks into high gear and she goes into some sort of trance. This is the utter madness of toxicity. We then get this edit as a bloody Mark plays soccer with some kids. Cut to Margie strutting in, saying she'll take care of Bob and inexplicably robbing Mark of his sweater. They both make it very clear how much they hate each other, then go inside the building with Margie grabbing at Mark's shirt.
I love seeing you miserable. It's so reassuring.
This moment suggests that them two are banging on the side, which would be ironic for the amount of moaning that Mark's doing. Cut to an office where Mark meets with Mr. Zimmerman. After they sit, we discover Mr. Zimmerman is a private investigator. Mark requests that Zimmerman follow his wife for a few days, and after divulging a few details about her and Margie, we cut to Mark returning home. He tucks in the sleeping Bob and then enters another room to find Margie asleep. He then speaks to her with this comforting tone as if she's a child before putting the cover over her and leaving the room. He then immediately returns with an angry look on his face, and we also see that Margie now doesn't have the cover on her. He sits and she immediately awakens, hugging his waist. What does it all mean, eh? Cut to those soldier-looking brothers watching Mark as he watches them. Anna suddenly enters and in the kitchen, Mark asks how long they'll carry this on for, but she ignores him. He presses the matter and she tells him to get off it as she cuts meat with an electric knife. He demands she talk to him, but she still says nothing. She then starts to put the meat in a blender as Mark asks more questions. Finally, he asks if she thinks he won't like her once he knows the real truth, and she quietly admits yes. Mark turns away, begging Anna to help him when she pulls the electric knife to her neck and cuts herself. Mark then drags her to the bathroom, reminding her of Bob, which seems to calm her down. He then bandages her wound and tells her,
My whole family.
He then proceeds to calmly cut into his arm over and over without any external reaction. Cut to Anna telling Mark she has to go. In this weirdly calm way, how many times are we going to see a character leave a room and then return with a completely different personality? He asks her to wait for Bob, but she says she can't. He suggests they both go and pick him up from school, but once again she declines. Then they have this exchange.
It doesn't hurt.
No.
Is this referring to the physical pain that somehow pales in comparison to the emotional agony that both parties are feeling? Or a reassurance that death does not hurt and would honestly be a far more appealing situation for them to both find themselves in, compared to the razor blade lined lives that they currently lead? Cut to Mark watching Anna leave. She turns a corner and we see this sus as f*** looking bloke follow her. Cut to Anna at the supermarket as the man watches, and then to Anna at the train station followed by the man. And check this little detail here. It seems like the man is here with her on the stairs, but when we cut to the reverse angle, it is only then that he arrives. Simple continuity error or something that the filmmaker did on purpose to further make the audience feel uncomfortable. Little touches here and there showing that things aren't quite right. Get your speculative and completely unfounded narrative claims down in the comments below. They board the train and Anna sits next to this raggedy looking chap. They're sitting in silence when the man reaches over and takes a banana from her. Anna does not react. And given the appearance of the man, the setting, how brazen he is in the robbery of the fruit, and Anna's lack of reaction, this leads me to believe that this simple act could actually represent something darker, or be emblematic of Anna's treatment by men throughout her entire life, taking what they can when they want, with absolutely no recourse whatsoever. Cut to the streets as Anna is followed by the man. Anna then picks up the pace with the man chasing after her. We have another weird continuity moment, then watch as Anna ducks into a building. They race up the stairs with Anna going into this apartment and the man running past her, trying to style it out like he wasn't just running down the street after her. Cut to the man at the payphone updating someone, presumably Zimmerman, on the situation, then grabbing some sausage before heading up to the flat. He pulls out a yellow notepad, then rings the bell while simultaneously church bells can be heard in the background. Then he starts knocking on the door like he's the f***ing police, or an Amazon delivery driver. Anna unlocks the door and the man enters, spinning some story about a broken window from her flat raining down glass onto the sidewalk. A distressed Anna tells him she doesn't want him to be there, but the man insists, mentioning it will be either him or the police. At this, Anna relents and allows him in. He walks around checking the windows while slyly catching looks at the rest of the apartment, not that we see very many details, as Anna removes her bandages and her personality begins to shift once more, becoming more jovial, laughing as she confirms the bathroom doesn't have any windows and offering the man wine. This sends him into a stuttery panic about having kids and how he can't, leading me to believe that he interprets this as some sort of offer of sex.
Oh, come on, don't be so...
Miss, it doesn't make any sense. I've got kids. I only came through windows.
She drops the wine bottle as the man enters the bathroom, discovering this. What the f*** is that? The man takes a look at this fleshy mess as Anna creeps up behind and clonks him. She then stabs him in the neck, screaming as she does. It's also worth noting Anna's expression and body language as this event takes place. She's shaking her head no and crying in once again another massive emotional shift for the character. The second in this scene alone. To me, it looks like she really doesn't want to do this, but feels she has to in order to protect the monster. She stabs him again and looks on in shock as the blood-soaked man slides down the wall. Also, the colour is great, and this last shot of Anna before we cut is a painting in and of itself. Cut to Mark bathing Bob when the buzzer goes off. It's Bob's teacher, Helen. He invites her inside when the buzzer goes off again and Mark asks if the teacher will get Bob out. He answers the door to find a seriously mash-up Heinrich, who probably has the best dialogue in this movie, and check out that performance.
I've been giving a great deal of thought to the illogical aspects of your rendering of the events. Is Anna with you?
He wants to know if Anna is there and Mark plays like she might be. Happy to dish out what I imagine he feels is the same torture Heinrich has been dealing him. Heinrich apologises for being violent, vowing to only use his psychic process to bring Anna back to him. Mark then admits that she isn't there, with Heinrich going into a story about his previous wife and daughter who now live elsewhere. He speaks of Anna being his second family, offering Mark and Bob some sort of place in that family as well, then likens Mark's stiff nature to that of a Nazi. Heinrich asks why Mark doesn't like him, and after sarcastically saying he does, he offers to tell Heinrich where Anna lives, suggesting there is a third man in this mix. This seriously bothers Heinrich, who, after some condescension regarding his sexual prowess, repeatedly attempts to enter Mark's apartment. Mark stops him and drops this bar.
I used to be afraid of you, but I don't think I am anymore.
There's nothing to fear except God.
Mark then says he thinks God is a disease, to which Heinrich responds,
That's why through the disease we can reach God.
So, if God is love and love is the disease, this shows the two men's differing opinions on the emotion, and the architect's decision to include such a powerful and destructive force. Mark opposes such a thing, whereas Heinrich believes that only through love can we get closer to God. Heinrich leaves as we cut back inside where Helen reads to Bob. She leaves the room as Mark says goodnight. Bob asks Mark if he likes Helen, who he doesn't like, and who he thinks is prettier, Mum or Helen. Mark says Anna, referring to her as our mummy. And that seems just a little bit telling, really. We don't know much about their relationship before the beginning of the movie, but this could be a clue into how Mark could have possibly taken her for granted. Cut to Mark and Helen in the kitchen where she's cleaning. He thanks her and she asks if he needs any help with Bob, sensing the difficulties Mark is facing. She says that Bob shouts in his sleep during nap time, but Mark says that he's never witnessed any such behavior from the boy. She says that he screams, and Mark says he's in a war against women.
They have have no foresight. There's nothing about them that is stable. There's nothing to trust.
Helen retorts,
There is nothing in common among women except menstruation.
she says she comes from a place where evil seems easier to pinpoint, because it is in the flesh. It becomes people, so you know exactly the danger of being deformed by it. Evil flesh becoming people who deform others? She rejects his claims of women contaminating the world, and as she gets ready to leave, she tells him,
Because you never feel free, do you? It's so sad that for you freedom seems to mean evil. And what about lack of freedom?
The pair embrace, and then we cut to the bedroom where they lay in bed together naked. Helen tells Mark he doesn't have to make love to her, and he says he's not trying. They both laugh, and it's a tender moment.
What happened?
Mark enters Bob's room and finds him screaming for his mother. He manages to calm him down, and we cut to him leaving the room to find Helen dressed and ready to go. She apologizes, saying this wasn't wise of her, worrying that this will confirm Mark's opinions of women. It makes me wonder that Mark has never seen Bob behave this way. Is he only seeing it now because for the first time he's actually paying attention to his child? Without the toxicity of his relationship with Anna, is he now only for the first time really able to see Bob? Perhaps this behaviour was always going on and Mark was just too wrapped up in his own to ever notice. Only after losing Anna, the woman he thinks he loves, can he now appreciate what he still has left. Alternatively, one could argue that if Bob genuinely has never acted this way, the common factor here is Helen, the teacher. Is her presence somehow causing this reaction from Bob? Cut to Helen welcoming Mark and Bob at the school gate. Bob runs off and the pair share a look before Mark walks away. Helen watches him leave, sliding along the fence. It's like a contained theatrical spin slide, not to get too technical. Helen up until this point has been presented as super normal. She seems less likely to lose her mind, but in this small moment, after her feelings for Mark have been made clear, we get this little flash of madness contaminating the cast. The spinning dance of desire. The abandoning of control. Perhaps this could be a sign of Helen's infection. The first sign that before long she'll be cutting open her own neck with an electric knife. In that sense, you would start to see that she can't fix Mark. Mark is one who can only bring others down to his level. Cut to Mark being approached by Zimmerman. He tells Mark the man seen following Anna earlier is missing and he needs Anna's new address. Mark tells him and it is then revealed the man is Zimmerman's romantic partner. Cut to Zimmerman reaching Anna's building in a shot that I just love. We have this lovely tracking shot as Zimmerman tries to head into the building, inadvertently bumping into Anna, who seems to somehow know this brother is here for her. She freezes as the camera continues to keep Zimmerman in center of frame, and just as she's about to exit frame, you see her body tense up like she's about to bolt. Sure enough, when she disappears, we hear hurried footsteps up the stairs. Zimmerman then turns and makes his way inside the now free doorway. It's such a quick shot, but so precise. It's one of my favorites. Cut to Zimmerman on the stairs where he finds Anna's apartment open. Inside, she's scrubbing the floor. He asks where the man is, but she avoids the question. And again, look at the camera work here. The background blurring and falling away as Zimmerman is entranced by Anna. He then says this.
Darkness is easeful. Temptation to let go promises so much comfort after the pain.
Which is basically a flowery way of saying that he recognizes her wish for death because he yearns for the same sweet relief. As he comes out of this, Anna is reintroduced to the frame and she tells him,
He's in there.
Get ready for some of that sweet relief, my G. Zimmerman then goes into the next room and discovers the monster lying in bed. Anna enters and says the monster is tired because it's been making love to her all night.
He made love to me all night.
Zimmerman then notices his dead lover behind the door and he screams his name before drawing a gun and firing upon Anna, which she does not appreciate. And what do we think of the significance of the milk here? Death by mother's nourishment, which also feeds into the contamination aspect? Is it even milk or actually monster that they've managed to stockpile over a night of crimes against nature? We're here to ask the important questions. Anna then grabs the gun and shoots him to death. Cut to Mark exiting the elevator and finding a film on his doorstep. Inside he watches it, seeing Heinrich as he films Anna teaching ballet. Anna paces the dancers, correcting them on their technique, with Heinrich getting in close with Anna on this one particular girl. She tells her to hold a pose for a painfully long time until the girl is screaming. It's here we see the vindictive side of Anna as she seems to play up for the camera, taking joy in the girl's agony. She then roughly moves on to the next girl who she compliments. Seeing this, the previous dancer loses her temper and storms out. Anna then tells the class that upon her return, she will know the righteous anger and determination she possesses to say, I can do better. She then says that no one did that for her and that's why she's here. Cut to Mark, who soaks all of this in while he rocks in his chair once again. We then cut to Anna as she gives her perspective on things. A perspective that's been a mystery to the audience up until this point. And at first I thought she was talking to Mark, and if indeed she was talking to Mark, I questioned whether or not she was actually there or if this was some imagined explanation. Mark trying to make sense of Anna's actions. But then I realised she's not talking to Mark. She's talking to the monster. The monologue speaks of chance and faith, of Anna's guilt and enjoyment of the pain she brings him, presumably Mark, but who's to say? You could say she was speaking of God, with her actions being the sins against biblical law that she enjoys. Her way of chipping away at God, who is, as discussed previously, love. So in essence, she hates love and what it has done to her just as much as Mark does. We can also add the fact that she's sitting with her back against a mirror and read this as her internal struggle. The mirror image being her in the real world, if that makes sense. That becomes especially interesting when paired with this line from Anna.
Goodness is only some kind of reflection upon evil.
Cut to Anna at the family home, pulling all the clothes and food out of the cupboards, telling Mark she's doing Bob's laundry. He again tries his best to speak with her, to get to the bottom of her true feelings, but she is probably the worst that we've seen her so far, acting as if she's desperate to tear herself out of her own skin. Mark then asks Anna to sit with him as he begins to question her more. Anna then begins to explain herself, the words heaving out of her like every syllable is agonizing. She says she messed everything up, even Bob, and that while Mark thinks she's a moral she does too, but not for the same reasons. She then screams she feels nothing for no one. She once again brings up the two sisters, Chance and Faith, strangling each other and staring at her as they do.
It's as if the two sisters were too exhausted to fight anymore. You know, these women wrestling in an arena of mud, with their hands locked at each other's throats.
And by God, this performance is amazing. Cut to this Jesus statue as Anna stares up at it whimpering, almost sounding like a lamb. A sacrificial lamb, pulling at herself with eyes that scream for forgiveness. It's clear here that Anna is not evil necessarily, but a person dealing with inner turmoil, a struggle between the expected and the desired. Cut to a deranged looking Anna as she walks through a train station tunnel laughing maniacally. She swings her bag of groceries at the wall, causing the eggs and milk to splatter everywhere, and then starts doing this. After a lot of this, we then cut to Anna screaming as blood and milk ooze out of her. And again, I've got to say, there's something about this imagery that I just absolutely adore. Actor Isabelle Adjani is going balls to the wall, giving zero f***s as she portrays somebody going through the absolute insanity of heartbreak. It's art and I cannot get enough of it. I wish this movie was 1,000 hours long. With the milk and now eggs again invoking themes of motherhood, along with the fact that clearly Anna feels guilt over abandoning Bob, her destroying these symbols and writhing around in the mess that she has created is a clear representation of Anna's perspective on her own actions. Adding to the fact that she's in a tunnel, a birth canal of sorts, this scene hammers home the fact that no matter how hard she tries to disassociate, Anna will never be able to escape her motherly guilt, the burden that all mothers carry. In a moment of realization, knowing this to be fact, her fate, as the blood and milk mix, she screams. Cut back to Anna and Mark as she explains this was the moment she miscarried Faith and was only left with Chance. Mark tells her that for the first time she looks vulgar to him. He likens her to a dying dog, and after getting back the ring and what she gave her, he asks if he was a dying dog, would she walk over him, to which she responds,
Yes!
Anna then leaves and we cut to Mark on the phone to Heinrich's mother. He tells her he loves everything and everyone and then gives her Anna's new address. Cut to Mark picking up Bob from school. He apologizes for being late and is about to leave when he turns back and accepts a piece of paper from Helen. He asks what it is and she replies, her name. Cut to Heinrich arriving at Anna's apartment. Inside we find him gripsing up Anna. He speaks more poeticisms, eventually producing a bag of drugs and carries her to the next room. It's then he notices the monster in the corner, now beginning to resemble a human form.
This is a joke.
It looks at him and it seems that Heinrich goes momentarily blind. Anna then shows him the chopped up body of Zimmerman before stabbing him. Heinrich gets the f*** out of there and we watch as Anna finds the monster now on the bed and starts to undress. Cut to Mark playing with Bob as the phone rings. He answers and agrees with the caller, Heinrich, to meet. Behind him, Bob lets Margie in and then asks his father who it was. He answers it's Mummy calling, and upon hearing this, Margie collapses. Cut to Mark entering Anna's place. He looks around, eventually opening the fridge and seeing what's inside, which he doesn't take too well. Cut to Mark rigging the flat to explode, and then to him meeting Heinrich at a nearby bar. They go to the bathroom to talk, with Heinrich informing Mark of the murders that Anna has committed. Mark pretends that he doesn't believe him, accusing Heinrich of being mashed up and seeing things. Heinrich then tells him to keep his mouth shut. Mark will have to pay him before vomiting into the sink. Mark watches this before picking up a feather and a shoe. He stuffs the shoe into the toilet and then makes himself throw up with the feather. He calls Heinrich for help and then smashes him over the head with the cistern cover and drowns him. He then throws Heinrich's drugs everywhere and leaves. Cut back to Anna's, where Mark blows the place the f*** up. The flat explodes and we cut outside, where a woman laughs, speaking of God avenging them, giving it out clean and getting it back dirty. Mark then gets the f*** out of there on Heinrich's motorcycle. Just quick, how cool is this shot? The windows, the flames, the actors, the camera work, all working together. Really good stuff. Really good stuff. Cut to Mark arriving home. In the lift, he finds Margie with her throat slit soaked in blood. She falls into his arms, and then we cut to him bringing her into the house and dumping her on the bathroom floor. He then walks into the bedroom to find Anna. And here we get a very John Carpenter-esque music cue, and it's just sublime. The pair embrace, with Anna for the first time showing signs of concern for Mark. She cleans him up, kisses him, and tells him that God is inside her. Anna then asks Mark to take her, and they bang! Post-coitus, Anna admits killing Margie as she saw the monster and was going to take it away from her. She says she needs money, so Mark tells her to go to Margie's and he'll go to the bank on Monday. They are then joined by Bob, who gets a big hug off his mum. She says she needs to leave and to close the kitchen door as she has it with her. Mark does this, and then we cut to him bagging up Margie's corpse before dumping it in the trunk of Anna's car. Inside, Mark answers a call from Heinrich's mother, who's worried she hasn't heard from him. Mark drops this bar.
Maybe he just forgot your number.
And then the mother tells him of her afternoon, going to Anna's, finding it destroyed, and then going to the bar where the police had found Heinrich's body. She was the only one who could identify him, but did not tell the police as his soul wasn't there. Mark starts to flick the kitchen light on and off while advising the mother that Anna has gone missing, but he will find her and find out what she has done with Heinrich's soul. Cut to Mark meeting Helen. He takes Bob out of the car and hands him to her while Helen asks him to promise something. Whatever it is.
I promise.
This being less of a specific promise and more a promise of himself. Cut to Mark arriving at Margie's. As he walks through the halls, the echoes of Anna's sexual ecstasy get louder and louder, and it is then that he discovers this. Anna looks up at Mark and repeats the word almost, presumably announcing her imminent orgasm, or perhaps this is foreshadowing of what is about to happen to the both of them. Cut to Mark visiting Heinrich's mother. She calls him the Angel of Death, and Mark admits that he has thought about killing Anna. She then continues to ask where Heinrich's soul is. She questions what is worse, taking away someone's wife, hurting a child, or killing. She then talks about Heinrich's wife and child. As she does, she takes some pills, lays on the bed, and dies. Mark holds her hand as she goes, with the window next to them opening on its own as her soul leaves the room. Cut to Mark on a bridge. He sees more people watching him, a dead dog floating in the water below, and is then approached by his previous employer. The employer tries to convince Mark to return to his work, but he is not at all on it.
Nobody's a boy anymore. Must we prove it?
Cut to Mark arriving at Margie's once again. His employers and the police are already there, so he jumps in a taxi and at gunpoint instructs the driver to crash into the police car. A cop and this Captain Hook looking motherfucker then open fire, tagging Mark, who fires back, killing Eye Patch, and then runs off. Anna's car then comes speeding out of the garage, hitting the police car, expelling the body of Margie and causing the other cars to explode. Cut to Mark riding the motorbike through tunnels, screaming as he does. He then crashes in a rago stunt that 100% hurt the stunt performer. Good lord. The severely injured Mark then makes his way up the stairs as church bells ring. He's shortly joined by Anna, who's being followed by a man. He tells her to run and asks how she could have found him, to which she responds,
How could I not?
She then introduces him to the now fully formed monster, a monster who looks identical to Mark. As the bullets fly, both Mark and Anna are mincemeated and we see that the monster is unaffected. Basically confirming that the monster is not physically there. Anna pulls herself up to Mark and they kiss once more before Anna shoots herself in her lower back, dying on top of him. The monster comments on this, saying,
So hard to live with it. Hey, brother.
Then asks this woman where the way out is, confirming that the monster is physically there. What the f***? He hands the woman the gun, makes her shoot it, and then uses her to get up to the window. As he does this, he shouts out,
Have you want to finish it?
Mark then jumps to his death. I don't think you really needed to do that, mate, but fair. Cut back to Helen's where the door rings. Bob tells her not to open the door, with Helen saying that she wants to. Bob continues to tell her not to as he runs to the bathroom and lies face down in the filled bathtub. We then hear the noises of airplanes taking off, missiles, bombs going off. It all sounds very end of the world. Cut to Helen at the door as she looks distressed at the sounds outside. She turns and we see behind her, through the screen, the monster pressed up against it. We close in on Helen's face as the chaotic sounds continue before cutting to black. The end! This genuinely might be my favourite film of all time. Possession is everything I'm looking for when it comes to art house horror cinema. Every single element of this film is perfect and it really had a special effect on me. I can honestly say without a doubt that Possession is my new favourite film of all time. The film is a beautiful depiction of not just horror, but a very relatable horror. One which many of us have been directly affected by at one point or another in our lives. Here we are dealing with the demon of distrust, of betrayal, desire, unfulfillment, guilt and loss. The deep and destructive hatred born from love. The fact that people get stabbed is really just window dressing, and honestly, if the film featured no violence at all, I think I'd still be just as struck by it. One of Possession's greatest choices here is in the vagueness of the storytelling. Almost everything seen on screen is open to interpretation on the part of the audience member, with their own personal baggage creating a unique experience. So if my experience differs from yours, I'd genuinely love to hear about it in the comments. If I had to pick a favourite element in the film, it would have to be the performances. While Sam Neill was great as the often unhinged Mark and Heinz Bennett is fantastically entertaining as Heinrich, I am especially infatuated with the performance of Isabelle Adjani in her dual roles of Anna and Helen. Having never come across her work before, I cannot stress enough how much I am in love with this human being. Her fearless performance as Anna is one of the most captivating I have ever witnessed, with the tunnel scene being her standout moment. The character of Helen, however, is the polar opposite of Anna, and Adjani plays her with such a kind and gentle demeanour that it is impossible to not see them as two separate people. At no point in the film does it feel like Helen is just Adjani in a wig with contacts. You feel for Helen, anxious at the prospect of her becoming involved with and ultimately destroyed by the repeated behaviours of Mark. In regard to why the two characters look so much alike, my theory is that in reality they do not. Helen is the first person since Anna Mark could have a relationship with, and so when they interact, he still sees the face of his previous partner. This is basically the physical representation of entering into a new relationship with someone when you're still not over your ex. Although he is with Helen, his thoughts are still with Anna, thus her face is all he can see. Knowing this adds a whole other level of guilt we feel for Helen's involvement, as she does seem genuinely caring and if given the chance could feasibly bring genuine happiness to both Mark and Bob's lives. As it stands, however, Mark will not allow that to happen, purposefully or not, and as previously addressed, all Mark can do is drag her down into the muck with him. And when the monster comes for her in the closing moments of the film, as the bombs go off, I see this as a literal preview of the destruction Helen is destined to be subjected to as she enters into a serious relationship with the monster of Mark. The only person in all of this that can see the danger is Bob, who begs this new woman, the closest thing he's ever known to stability, not to open the door, to which she replies, "But I want to." The danger is clear and yet Helen is willing to go toward it. Speaking of the monster, what the f is going on here then? Getting past the interpretation of the monster being a physical reality, I'm of the opinion that the monster is an extension of Mark, the personification of his worst nightmare. A being who Anna is infatuated with and cannot live without, who satisfies her in ways she never thought possible. In the end, taking his place by Anna's side, literally taking Mark's face, leaving him nothing, no place in the world. Although it does not exist in the traditional sense, Mark makes it real to him. So when the monster asks how he, Mark, wants to finish it, Mark answers with a splat. Honestly though, I don't think I really care if it's real or not. I'm just glad I got to see that scene. Good f***ing lord. In that respect then, what of the chaos of the third act? The explosions, the gunfire? In my opinion, it's all a bit American Psycho, with the events turning into fantastical cinematic action scenes. This is the breaking down of Mark as he reaches the end of his tether. If the surrounding world is representative of Mark's grip on reality, by the time he jumps, Mark has well and truly lost the plot, as it were. In the end, Possession is a wildly interesting dive into a relationship rotten black from the inside, that while not making a massive amount of sense on the surface and even being contradictory of itself at times, refuses to let up until the credits roll. It's a holy union of both sublime and repulsive imagery paired with stunning performances, and I absolutely cannot recommend it enough. I am really looking forward to hearing what all of you got from this wonderful and unique piece of cinema. So that was my review of Possession. What do you lot think? All I know is I'm going to have to track down everything that this filmmaker's ever made. I'm genuinely excited about that. This isn't like a Marion Dora situation. Like, I feel like I'm about to embark on a cinematic journey, and I just can't wait. So excited. But in the meantime, thank you all for watching. Like, share, subscribe. My name's Jonjo Lyons, and Juxtaposed. It's for my little brother.